Let's talk about character strengths. By now, you hopefully will have taken the VIA strength survey and have received your results. And you might be wondering, what are all these numbers? Why are those strengths numbered? Well, the first 5, sometimes the first 7 are your signature strengths. And signature strengths means that they are closely linked to your identity, which means if you asked somebody who you are close to, what your strengths are, your qualities, they probably will answer with your character strengths, with the signature strengths. They are very closely linked to your values, and you get a lot of energy out of using them. You might experience happiness and well being when you use them, and they come really naturally to you. There is a downside as well, which means that sometimes we're more likely to overuse our signature strengths. However, we're not discussing this here. We do discuss it in our character strengths course. So if you want to learn more about character strengths and how to use them, etc., then please check out that course. After the signature strengths, we have our phasic strengths. And our phasic strengths are the strengths that we just use in specific situations. For example, or at least I hope you don't have to use perseverance all the time. And leadership, it's the same. You don't always have to lead. You might be a leader at work or at home, but you don't use this strength all the time. So those strengths are pretty rare or don't really show up as signature strengths. So it's just the strengths that you use when they are needed. Middle strengths are just the strengths that are in the middle. They don't come as naturally to you, and they really don't say anything or not as much about your personality. They're kind of like phasic strengths. You use them as and if needed. Lower strengths are less developed in you. It doesn't mean that you don't have them, but you don't use them as much. You can change that, of course. There are things that you can do to increase where your lower strengths go. You might be starting to consciously use those strengths a little bit more. Um, but they don't really say much. They're not central to your identity. Now, the lost strengths are interesting because you still have them, even though it says lost here, you still have those strengths. But imagine somebody who might have grown up in a very in a very unhealthy environment where they weren't allowed to have an opinion, where they had to just toe the line. This person most likely will not have developed any leadership skills, and or at least leadership character strengths. So those strengths can still be reactivated, but it means that currently you are not using them, and it's because it might have been forbidden culturally or within the family, etc. Let's have a look at an example, and I want you to keep the character strength self-regulation in mind as I tell you the story of Edith. So Edith is a project manager. She's been working at her company for the past 2 years. She is a very dedicated and conscientious employee. She delivers on time, sometimes even earlier. She does a lot of work. She never says no, and her boss knows that. That's why her boss gives her more and more work. And Edith tries to, again, meet all the deadlines, and slowly she is starting to feel overloaded. She works overtime, and sometimes she even takes the work home to finish it. She is somebody who does not want to let other people down. Okay, so keep that story in mind. And now we're going to look at the definition of self-regulation as written down by the VIA Institute. Self-regulation is a complex character strength. It has to do with controlling your appetites and emotions and regulating what you do. Those high in self-regulation have a good level of confidence in their belief that they can be effective in what they pursue and are likely to achieve their goals. They are admired for their ability to control their reactions to disappointment and insecurities. Self-regulation helps keep a sense of balance, order, and progress in life. Self-regulation can be viewed as a resource that can be depleted or fatigued. A useful metaphor can be that self-regulation acts like a muscle, which can be exhausted through overexertion or strengthened through regular practice. Remember the story? Okay. What I want you to do now is to think about Edith taking the strength survey. Where do you think in the survey would self-regulation show up? Do you think it's somewhere in her signature strengths? Or maybe it's a phasic strength? Or is it a lost strength? Or a lesser one? A middle one? Think about where you would put her self-regulation strength and also why you would put it there. And I would love for you to discuss this with your fellow students. You can do that on the website, on the course website. On the left-hand side of your window on your screen, you usually see the path where you can see the different units and you can click on them to get there. Now, you click on the right on Discuss, and this message window pops up. You can just type your message there, or you can also start a poll, and then you click Share. That's how you can have discussions with your fellow students. And please also comment on other people's posts.